Welcome back, everyone. Bienvenidos a todos. Vamos a empezar. Okay, let's get started. So, I feel like I just want to give you, I don't know, some kind of, I guess, explanation from a parent's, a grandparent's view, just in general, like adults that have been a part of, let's say, unconventional churches, maybe the strict Baptists, the Mormons, whatever it is that seems kind of cultish, which I hate to say that because not all churches are cultish, but I feel like a lot of churches have um they have the opportunity to become a little cultish. So I like to be very careful, even when I talk about like my old church and stuff like that. I want to be respectful because not everyone there is a bad guy. Not everyone there is a bad person. Not everyone that goes to church commits crimes or does bad things to kids or whatever. So just as like I said, from the perspective of a parent or grandparent that chooses to go to a church, most people that are looking for a church, they're looking for something. They're trying to fill a void. They're trying to find peace. They're trying to find joy. They're trying to find happiness. They're trying to find that peace that passes all understanding. And the sad part is most parents and grandparents are bringing their kids, bringing their grandkids to churches to find all of those things, plus safety, security, good teachings. They want to raise their kids right. And the sad part is that sometimes what they're promised from a church doesn't always come to pass. What they're promised to have within a church, it doesn't always happen, and they get misled, or bad things happen behind the scenes, and they may never know. So, like I was talking about the story of like the grandparents' story, the grandmother's story, I think I called it. It was anonymous, and I tried not to say any names. But she just kind of reminded me of that perspective. Like, okay, when a grandparent or parent joins a church, they're looking for something good. They're not looking for endangering their child. They're not looking to ruin their kids' lives. Most of the time, they're looking for something good. They're looking for something positive and hopeful and joyful and something that brings them closer to God, or helps their babies get to heaven. It's all these great intentions, and I just wanted to kind of remind everyone that may have had a bad experience in a church, and maybe they're still angry, maybe they're still hurt. I totally understand that because my parents did the same. Like, they brought us to a church they thought they could trust. They brought us to a church/school they thought they could trust. We ended up having like the best friends from there. And we had some of the best relationships, some of the best trustworthy friendships we could ever have. Yet in the background of that church, there were just snakes in the grass, just lying in wait for us who were vulnerable, who maybe didn't have a dad in the home, maybe they, maybe on the little like poorer side, just more vulnerable. So it's just talking to her about her experience with the church she was at, because Naomi has been on this rampage of Fairhaven and Grace and all that. And my friends and I are also not on a rampage, but we are also more than willing to expose bad actors in churches. I'm fine with that. I have done it, and I do it currently. If I hear of any abuse going on, I will more than likely call it out. I will just try to make sure that I'm more for sure that it's actually happening, or I'll say allegedly or whatever. But more so, we just want to be supportive and kind of in the background of people's lives. Just be like, hey, we're here for you. We're an ear if you need us. We understand, and just try to bring positivity and healing to the world. Now I just got off track. I'm sorry. So, my point to that was that these people that are a part of these churches, they're not all bad. They're not all terrible. They're not all abusive. But like I was explaining in that grandmother's story, sometimes people that go to church don't always realize how the church's tactics that they teach, they may not realize that they are abusive. They may not realize what a fine line it is from what they're teaching to, what really is real love and what is loving someone well. and not traumatizing them. Because, like, I guess certain ways of teaching and certain ways of raising your children, it's always going to be different in every household. Everyone's going to be used to different things. Some things aren't traumatizing at all. To some people, they're like, bro, it was my childhood and like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Other people take it differently and they're like, oh my God, I was so traumatized. So everybody's very different in that aspect. And not every person that goes to a Baptist church is an abuser. So I guess what's frustrating about Naomi is going at it the way she did and pulling the young girl out of the home with the baby, but yet something I didn't mention is like there was 2 other minors in that house. So if it were like immediate danger, like why didn't she also rescue those other 2 kids? And that just made me think, and the Graham even point out, like, why, if I was such a horrible person, like why did she not take the rest of the kids? Like why didn't she send help for them or get them like taken somewhere else? And it's like, good point. And to me, this is my like personal, just my opinion, I felt like, well, maybe she needed that aged person to, you know, get GoFundMe's for, and to, because she would be, you know, old enough to like be on her own. So it's not like Naomi would have a full-time job of like babysitting, and the mom would just take care of the baby or whatever. But apparently she was trying to convince her of a whole lot of other things, and it just seemed really inappropriate. And I feel like, you know, obviously I wasn't in that home. I don't know what happened. I don't know everything, and I'm getting it from all different sides. But there was definitely a better way to do it. And I think, you know, the people, the professionals that do deal with cases of children, I think they could step it up a notch for sure. Because I even have known people that were legit getting hit and abused, and they ended up having to stay with their parents. And it's like, oh, it's so heartbreaking because you're trying to help and it doesn't always work out. They don't always get to go somewhere else. But at the end of the day, I think what should happen, and this is just like my opinion, and I know it's probably really difficult to do, but I wish what could happen is that parents that are in these churches that are maybe getting taught things that aren't really loving well, I would hope and wish that there was a way to have them take some parenting classes that are outside Christianity, maybe outside outside Baptist circles, I should say, and like the strict culty circles. And it's not because I'm like, oh, the Bible's bad. It's because men are bad, like humans, not just like men, but humans, because women teach bad things too. And since we're all humans, sometimes we make errors, and sometimes we interpret the Bible to be different than what I think it's actually saying. So I wish more so, instead of just like ripping a kid out of its home, you know, if it's not an immediate danger, I wish that there was a way to, and there probably is, like, I don't know everything, and I don't know how all states do it, but I would love to see more of parents and kids coming together and being able to work through everything, working through trauma from childhood, working through any abuse, especially if it's not trauma that happened from the parents, but it's trauma that happened within the church circles, and their parents just A, didn't know about it, or B, was told that it's not trauma and it's the kid's fault because that's happened, or, you know, C, they were told like, you know, there's nothing you can do about it, just pray for them, forgive them, we'll send the perp off to another church, whatever, because that kind of stuff all happens. So it's not always that the parents are the ones abusing. So I would love to see more people be able to come together as parent and child and like get the counseling together, realize like where maybe the parents went wrong of not protecting their kids. And sometimes it's no one's fault but the perp, because if there's a person in the church and they're in this circle of trust and there's a perp out there abusing kids or whoever, the parents don't always know. And then when they find out as their kids are all grown up, it's like the kids can be really bitter and really angry at the parent, like, why don't you protect me, why don't you save me? But sometimes the parents just don't know. So I just wanted to remind everybody, like, there is a lot of sides to everything that's going on. And sadly, within like my church circles, it's happened in a lot of different ways. Like, there was a lot of different perspectives. A lot of families handle things differently, and they handle finding out about abuse differently. Sometimes they blame the kid, sometimes they, you know, blame themselves, and it's a tough situation. And so, yeah, just talking to her kind of reminded me of that perspective of parents and grandparents don't always realize how bad or toxic some really strict churches can be. And I do feel like most people that go to church have the best intentions, but it just doesn't always work out the way it should. And for all the perps, obviously, no excuse for them. They're disgusting. And they should all... stuff I can't say. So, but anyway, that's my little snippet about that. Just kind of that perspective, and where I just feel like Naomi, if she was in it for the correct reasons, I feel like she would have maybe given resources to the whole family and not just be like, hey, I'm coming in with cameras and voices blazing of like all these horrible things you are to the mom, and maybe helped all of those people. Because if they were truly being abused or neglected or whatever was the accusations, I feel like maybe she could have done a better job. Because now, I mean, that daughter is back in that house anyways, and all she did was cause harm. She didn't actually help anyone. The daughter's still there, the baby's still there, the minors are still there, and like, did she teach anybody anything? I don't think so. She just really wrecked that grandma's world for a whole month, and I'm assuming she really affected the young mom also, and yeah, like she doesn't even want to be a part of any of this, so I try to be careful, because yeah, she kind of ruined stuff. So if you are, gonna help people, that's amazing and that's awesome, because it's really hard to make that phone call of like trying to get someone help, or to make suggestions and everything. It's really, really a hard place to be. So if you are going to do that, awesome. Just try your best to get them professionals. And if one counselor doesn't work out, try another one. And, offer as much advice or help that you can. And let them know, like, church doesn't have to be a bad thing. But if it's making people's lives worse or toxic or abusive, then you got to know, like, okay, red flags, like, the pastor shouldn't be telling you to abuse people. Obviously, he's not going to say that that's what it is. A lot of them don't even believe, like, that. They don't even talk about abuse. They just call it other stuff, But anyways, I guess that's all for that one. Bye-bye.